Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. I'm an astrologer, coach, and intuitive. My podcast is the Celestial Insights Podcast that helps you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. I do readings for on the businesses and people on the personal level, host events, teach for astrology organizations, and I'm a member of the board of the Organization of Professional Astrology, OPA. And my class for Kepler College about transits, the next session starts on April 1st. There might be a few spaces left, or it might already be full. But anyway, I wanted to use an example of a public figure and talk about number one, the eclipses and how they show up in our lives and how the transits show up in our lives. And I teach about transits. And so transits are one of my favorite things, and mundane astrology is my jam, the astrology of world events. So today we're going to be looking at a comedian and a talk show host. His name is Bill Maher. He's very popular for people who are interested in politics. That's his niche, that's his specialty. He's been on the air since, I don't know, the 90s, maybe early. Oh, before that. He might have been the original host of Jon Stewart's show, The Daily Show. He might have been involved with The Daily Show back in the day, I think. I'm not positive about that. But anyway, he had this show, Politically Incorrect, on ABC, where like top thinkers and people in politics and the Washington, D.C. movers and shaker from both Democrats and Republicans and independents would come onto his show. And he used to have like four people, and they would debate about the issues. Now, that show got canceled after he made a joke after 9/11 that was considered unpatriotic about how I think it was about how the terrorists weren't cowards. Whatever, he got canceled. He was beheaded. Yeah, he displeased the powers that be, and his show was canceled. Well, he was reborn, and he got a show on HBO that still currently runs now every Friday night, and on HBO. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've been looking to see Venus Cazimi. So let's talk about why this has been so interesting to me. Because in the time we're in right now is a huge time of change where the United States maybe is at there's the threat of authoritarian rule in the United States. The United States has just had its Pluto return, this cycle that happens every 248 years, where it's known for empires crumbling or they undergo big changes. Now, Rome's still around. The Italians are still here, but the Roman Empire used to be one of the biggest empires in the world. But yeah, these things, and I think it lasted for 500 years. So it had two Pluto returns before it lost its big influence. But we're on a cusp of change. The current president is like just demoing through traditional norms. And Bill Maher, who we're going to talk about, has been one of his adversaries. But and they met for the first time with Venus retrograde Cazimi. And a Cazimi is when a planet meets the sun. And in astrology, traditional astrology, the sun is the king. And Cazimi is when the planet and the sun are at the exact same degree. Now, every month, the new moon is essentially a moon Cazimi, where the moon and the sun come together, whispering secrets about what they want to grow in your life. And then over the next 29 and a bit days, the moon goes through all of the phases in the cycle between it and the sun and comes back. And the next month, there's another new moon, and it keeps going. Well, every planet meets the sun like that. It's not just the moon. But the rest of the planets have retrograde cycles. The sun and the moon never retrograde. And what a retrograde is, that it appears a planet stops in the sky, is an optical illusion from our perspective here on Earth, and it looks like it goes backwards, stops, and then goes forward again. So it goes over the same ground 3 times. And there may be a story in your life where there is a first act, a second act, and then the psychological integration. So the first act happens when the planet is coming direct to a point in your chart. And then it stops somewhere, and then it goes back over the old ground. Oh, wait, it stops, it goes back over old ground it already transited, and then stops and then comes back. And those 2 places it stops are called the station degrees, and they're like branding irons with they really the energy is like, it's like ooh. And when you have one of these retrogrades on one of your personal planets or angles, there's always a story in your life. And we look at you can look at definitely the degree, 1 degree on either side. But when we're getting into eclipses, which we're going to talk about in a moment, you can widen that to like 5 degrees. So it's definitely a story, a degree to the degree, or 1 on either side. But you can even see stories wider than 5, but you're probably going to recognize something going on within 5 degrees. Yeah, especially if you're an astrologer, if you're paying attention, these symbols. Astrology just is a language. It's a way to translate the energy of what is going on as above, as below. What's happening here on Earth is a reflection of what's going on in the cosmos. That's the whole theme of astrology. And people have been using it for thousands of years. I mean, I have a degree in biology. It's like clockwork. It's incredible to watch it come to life. And there are different ways to read energy, but astrology is one of them. And it's really a great tool for people who are more grounded and earthy and logical, to be able to look with their eyes and see the geometric relationships between the planets and their chart. And it's like, oh my God, when you say this date, what happened on this date or about then, and boop, you see things. Okay, so I'm already getting off track. I am known for my tangents, but I want to stay focused so I can get to this in a timely, tight fashion so that you can see this incredible story. So what's happening today is the day of, I'm doing this recording on March 22nd, 2025. The sun in Aries, and the sun is the king. And in Aries, it's exalted, it's lifted up. It has a special seat at the table. And exaltation gives themes on the shadow side of arrogance. And yeah, arrogance and overly self-importance. The sun is at home in Leo, it's exalted in Aries. Okay, and so the sun is the king, and in the United States, the president is the sun type figure. Now, Venus rules people who are popular and liked, and Venus is in the sign of Aries right now. It does not like to be in Aries. It's a sign of Venus's detriment, because in a planet in detriment can feel like it is in exile. William Lilly, I believe, is the one who originated the language of, but I could be wrong. It could have been someone else, but I learned about it in horary school where we were studying William Lilly. So apologies if I'm sourcing that wrong, but talked about, and maybe it doesn't matter who said it, but it's well known that being in detriment can be like a person, a man, cast out of his estate with no hopes of recovery, is one of the ways we can talk about a planet being in its detriment. And when a planet's in its detriment, it's as far from home as it can be. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, relationships, money, harmony, popularity, likability has to do with Venus. Venus unites, it values, compares. These are some of the things Venus does. It looks like a hand mirror, the glyph for it. Anyway, it's at home in Taurus and Libra. So the signs opposite those two are where it's in detriment. So it's in detriment, Taurus at home, Scorpio the opposition, and in home in Libra, and in detriment in Aries. So in Libra, Venus, which likes to unite in the sign of partnerships that want harmony and balance and want one-on-one relationships for there to be a collaborate. You win-win solutions. That's what Libra is at its high road is a master at. Libra is in air signs. Air signs communicate and they connect. So they're associated with people. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Okay. Now, Aries is one of the bestial signs. It's a first sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by Mars. What does Mars do? Mars struggles, competes, energizes, strives, attacks. And so obviously Venus is not comfortable in the sign of attack because Venus wants people to get along. So that's a side note about why Venus is in detriment in Aries. Well, today Venus met the sun. This is called Cazimi. It happens for Venus. It happens every 9 months. Venus every 9.5 months. Venus moves faster than the sun, so it has two different types of relationships with the sun. Some where it's going in direct motion, that's the superior. And when it's going in retrograde motion, that's the inferior. And on the personal level, when Venus is retrograde or anybody planet is retrograde, you're supposed to go internal and work on what you're thinking about, the topics that the planet rules. But retrogrades are known for conflicts, disagreements, delays, reversals, and the collapse of anything contemplated. These are some retrograde topics. Now, okay, so Bill Maher is the Venus type figure. The president is, a DJT is the sun figure. And the sun backed into Venus is retrograde, so they met. It was announced. Bill Maher announced yesterday that he was meeting Trump. I think today, at the day of Venus Cazimi. And what you can be is like you sit at the throne of the king and ask the king for a favor, and it's likely to be bestowed. But with the retrograde and detriment, it could be like the favor asked is coming from the king to you. And maybe with Venus retrograde, it's an invitation for you to be attacked. Remember, Zelensky met with the president and the vice president on the day before Venus went retrograde. And so the whole world saw this. He was treated terribly, Zelensky, yelled at and all this stuff. He was invited guest who was yelled at. Aries rules conflict. Venus is like a party, a guest, an invitation. Yeah, you have an invitation to come together, and then then the planet went retrograde, and essentially it was a symbol of the United States breaking up with the whole world, and it caused a geopolitical nightmare. Anyway, where now other countries are talking about getting nuclear weapons and all this kind of stuff. It's very concerning. And by the way, this is for entertainment only. For entertainment only. Okay. And and now we're Venus in the retrograde phase. You're always you're you're always it's meeting the sun. Sorry, I'm thinking about, oh my God, I hope I don't get thrown in the gulag for recording this video, but I can't worry about that. I don't think so. Anyway, um, so because this is happening at my midheaven, and this is typically a Venus Cazimi is a nice thing, but with the energy is just so funky. We're in eclipse season. There are all these things going on that are energetically. Mercury's retrograde, Venus is retrograde. So this is really a time to go within rather than like having these big conversations about, what's going on. So maybe the president just asked him for an apology because Maher has had jokes, a lot of jokes that are like stinging about the current president. So so Venus Cazimi, they meet, and then next Friday, the day of the solar eclipse, is Maher's next show. And my question is like, what's he going to talk about? And is the audience even going to be there? Because he may get wholeheartedly rejected by a large percentage of his audience for even meeting with the president because of what he's considered an authoritarian and doing horrible things by many people. And Pluto's in Aquarius, the people have the power. If they decide they're done with you because of bending the knee to the king, they could just leave. So let me show you his chart. Okay. And just talk a little bit about his chart. So this is Bill Maher. We have a AA rating, so it should be exact time. And he is a Libra rising. One of the things about his show, both the politically incorrect, that was the first show, and the real time is that he has guests from both sides of the political spectrum. So conservative and liberal, and then they come together and then they talk about stuff. So Libra is the sign of the scales. It's the sign of balance. And Libra, people with strong Libra energy are sometimes accused of being two-faced or wishy-washy because they can see both sides of the story. And the ascendant is how other people see you. So other people may have described him as fair, as balanced, because he has a balance of the views of the guests. So that's how people see him. Yeah. But he's in Aquarius. So this is his sun in Aquarius in the fourth house. So he beats to his own drum. And he throws out, like, some people just hate him because he will say he's an independent thinker. That's an Aquarius thing. He will say what he thinks and feels without regard to what other people have to say. And he gets into trouble for it. Like I said, I think I already said that his show was canceled on ABC because of the joke he made about 9/11. So you see how he has Jupiter and Pluto here conjunct at the last degrees of Leo. 29 degrees is the last degree of the sign. Every sign there's 30 degrees in every sign. It runs from 0 to 29. And whenever you see a planet at 29 in someone's chart, there's going to be some kind of crisis related to the planet, the topic, and the house that it's in. So Jupiter is a planet of expansion and abundance. It has to do with status and fame. Leo, the sign of celebrity. Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. And in the 11th house of the collective. So the audience, the people. And he made this comment, and his celebrity could have been gone forever. He got canceled, cut off, and Pluto like obliterated. But he had a rebirth on HBO, and his show is really popular on HBO, and an important show for people in that realm. Okay. And he's an Aquarius. And look at all these zeros. Zero. He's like, and he's a trendsetter. He sees the future. Like he was one of the first people, and Aquarius is a sign of the future and a sign of people who can see. He was one of the first people who, um, one of the first people who started talking about how the president was leading a coup, that he was going to take over the country. He said from early on, he said probably in 2017 or so, that he was not going to leave the White House of his own free accord. So he predicted, Aquarius is a side of astrology, future trends, future settings. Yeah, outer space, and he has his sun square Neptune. So there's like he's got some psychic abilities. He just can see behind the curtain in a lot of ways. Um, yeah, with he's there's something sensitive about him, about his energy, like he can read energy. And he was saying back then, and people told him he was crazy, that he predicted January 6th. I don't need to keep belabor the point. He predicted January 6th. He called out the march toward authoritarian and the coup, the changing of democracy very, very early on. And he was right on the money with that. Yeah. And and so some people don't like him, especially he's a liberal, but he's the old school liberal. So he has been very critical about wokeism, about how, the left has veered away from the working class and into the culture wars, way too full steam ahead, particularly in the last, 5 years, maybe at the end of Trump's term. Yeah, particularly about that stuff, and about he's been somewhat critical about like the trans issue becoming such a big factor within the Democratic Party, and some people have really rejected him, especially on the younger side. Yeah. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And his moon is in the sign of Taurus. He likes comfort. He likes security. He likes things the way he doesn't like. And look, his moon is putting its influence with the 5-degree rule on the 8th house. So again, emotionally, he's got this psychic stuff going, and you can see his his being famous is no surprise because of all the 0 degrees. He doesn't have anything on a world point, but he has 1, 2, 3, 4 planets at 0 degrees. That's an indicator. 0 and 29 are indicators of that someone may be well known. And this 29 degree, that's another signature. He also has his moon and his Venus exalted, so lifted up, a special seat at the table. He gets invited to all kinds of places that the average person cannot go to. And they invite him. Moon and Venus are the planets of receptivity. Now, he loves to smoke pot. He has talked about it nonstop. And on his show, on tape, has admitted, this is where he can get into a real problem, where he has admitted to being a drug dealer in college. He was selling marijuana to people in college. And yeah, now his sun is in the sign of its fall, in the sign of Aquarius. And if you think you're going to change his mind about anything, you can just go pound sand, because he's got his I mean, it's really hard to get his mind changed about much because he has his sun. He's got a cardinal fixed square, which is like almost immovable. He's got his sun opposite Uranus and squaring Neptune and the moon. So Uranus in the 10th house, he's this TV star, Uranus and Leo. He's Uranus can be about is about broadcasting and it reaches a large amount of people. So it has this also has this kind of association with fame. So he has Uranus in the 10th house. He does things differently. He's got this like revolutionary energy where he says what he wants to say. He doesn't care if people don't like it, kind of. That's the Aquarian in the sun opposite. You're like he's really a Aquarian. And the square Neptune and the moon. He's always talking about how much he loves the physical pleasure. Taurus is a sign, I can know of what I speak of, liking the sensual pleasures, the food, the drink, the whatever. He doesn't drink anymore, but like you can tell he's in his 60s now and he has oh, I should figure out how old he is. I should be able to do it on my I don't care. Oh my God, he's 69. 69 is a he's in a 10th house year. So his career is in focus. The moon rules Cancer. So the moon is his midheaven ruler. And we just had a lunar eclipse. So moon transits, he's very sensitive to moon phases and eclipses in terms of his career with the moon ruling that. So anyway, I don't know what I was saying. Anyway, he has admitted to something illegal about drugs, but you can see it in his chart. He loves to get high. Yeah. Moon, emotionally, he loves it. Yeah. In Venus and Pisces, he loves getting high and he talks about it. Fifth house is the house of self-expression. He's whip smart. Mercury, all this Aquarius energy, smart, future thinking, all of this kind of stuff. And Mars is Sagittarius. He's got a yeah, he can be a little reckless. Why are you admitting to doing drugs? Because now it may come back to bite him now that the United States is moving away. Potentially, we're in a fight there's this fight between authoritarianism and democracy. Yeah. So anyway, and he is a nemesis of Trump because back in 2020 no, 2013, he made a joke on the Tonight Show. It was January 7th, 2013, about Donald Trump. About this was back during the birther period where Trump was going on Fox News every 5 minutes talking about how Obama wasn't a US citizen, how he was from Kenya, and how he needed to show his birth certificate. It was all BS, just racist BS. But Maher made a joke about how, because of the way he looks with the orange face and the wild hair, that Trump needed to show his birth certificate to prove he was not the son of an orangutan. And he showed a picture of the president versus an orangutan, and this similar. He was not president then. This was well before he even started running. And as a result, the president sued Maher and eventually dropped the suit. It was totally frivolous lawsuit. You can't sue someone for making a joke at your expense. But anyway, yeah, and Maher has talked about how dangerous he is. He's also talks about when he dances like this, about how it looks like he's jerking off two guys at once. So I'm sure that goes over really, really well. So let's look at his chart again. So something that's interesting about this time is that the new moons have all been at 9 degrees. They're going to slip back to 6 or 5 in the next couple of months, but back since the solar eclipse in October was at 10 Libra, So that was October 2nd. So that was an eclipse over here to his identity right around the election. October 2nd was just before the 2024 election in November, and where he may have been like nervous about this election a little bit for his identity. It was a South Node eclipse, so the South Node is a drain, and it also rules the physical body. So he may have had some health stuff because he's almost 70. I don't know. That's not important. But anyway, the thing that's important is several months later at the turning point between the eclipses. So you'll have an eclipse, and then that's Libra. 3 months later, at the next in a new season, you'll have the sun will square where the sun and the moon were at the eclipse. And squares are activating, pop things out into our lives. So, you know, Capricorns, the Capricorn new moon was at 9 Capricorn on the fixed star Phasces, which is known for being a star of a dictator will rise. So that was the new moon before the inauguration in 2025 at his IC, his most private part in his chart, squaring his ascendant and his descendant. Descendant is the other, the love partner, the best friend, the open enemy. So his open enemy, who he's said a lot of stuff to say about, was rose up into a position of incredible power. To be the most powerful person in the world is the president of the United States. At least it was. I mean, that may not be for long, but at this time, it still is. Okay. And so that. And then at the next new moon at 9, and it was at 9 Aquarius. And the Aquarius new moon this year was the day that the Army helicopter, it happened the day after the new moon. So there's an event at the balsamic phase of the moon right before the moon is new. And then at the new moon, we're looking at some new event, new start that's happened. New moons seed what's happening in the cycle of the moon phases. And I talk about there's larger cycles. There's all the astrology is all about cycles. It's about patterns and repeating things and all of that. But anyway, there was a new moon in Aquarius, and it was the event of that new moon was the Army helicopter smashing into that commercial airliner. It was a horrific tragedy that was Uranian, that it was like, oh my God. And on that day, Uranus stationed direct. So it was a turning, like Uranus rules reversals and it rules aviation. And we had this Uranian event happen at that new moon. And it was a wild, wild moon cycle. Everything Uranus you can imagine, including Gene Hackman, like turning up dead with his wife. That was in that moon cycle and all kinds of stuff. But we don't want to go all down that road. But the thing about that new moon, and then at the full moon, things come to fruition. The full moon was on February 12th. And on this date, this is Bill Maher's chart. And on this date, 2 days after the full moon, he had Kid Rock, who is a trumper and a celebrity singer, on his show. And I've noticed since January, because I watched Bill Maher. I've been watching Bill Maher since the 90s. Yeah, he can be a jerk, but I like how he has both sides. I think his show is insightful. I've learned so much. It's really been a good show. I don't know how long I'll keep watching it, but in the past, I've really enjoyed it. So you see, Venus is a guest, and Venus is direct at this time. And it's a guest, and it's conjunct his descendant. So he has this Venus and Aries type person on his show. And Kid Rock is popular in certain segments. He was really popular, I think, in the 90s or something. Um, but he's very working class. He's a guy who shot a Bud Light with a shotgun after the when people were boycotting it because they had the trans person be their spokesperson. Anyway, that was a whole big thing right around when Pluto went into Aquarius. But yeah, so he was this guest on his show, and see how Venus is squaring his midheaven. And it was really strange because he's not the typical guest that Maher would have on his show, but it just set off when I saw that. I was like, because I've been wondering, what's going to go on. One of the things is concerning about, um, a totalitarian in power is that, and the president has been said quite frequently and out loud that he's going to go after his enemies. Now, he's talked mostly about his political enemies, but he has enemies in the entertainment field all over the place. And Bill Maher definitely is one of his enemies. And I started watching last night's show, and his opening monologue was highly critical of the president. But then they go and meet. So, yeah. So Kid Rock facilitated the meeting between the president and Bill Maher, supposedly, and Bill Maher said this in his announcement about going to the White House. Okay. So that's now Mercury is Venus is retrograde at the. Oh, and before I do that, these are things that are never short. I just go on and on. I can't, it's just who I am. Why do I deny it? So this is the full the moon, new moon in the sign of Pisces. And a thing about this new moon was that it squared Jupiter in Gemini. So we've been looking for Jupiter in Gemini square Pisces Sun type figures. Gemini is an air sign, rules reporters, talk show hosts, all of those kind of things. Jupiter rules celebrity. So I have thought there would be the person that he would pick on first would be Morning Joe. And I've been looking because Morning Joe, who's on MSNBC, he used to be a congressman and was accused of killing a woman. It made no sense. One of the people who worked for him, died at a young age, and then his political opponents like brought up all this ruckus trying to smear him, saying that he had something to do with it. There's no thought that he had anything to do with this woman. But the president has brought it up as though he did. So I thought that Morning Joe would be the person he went after first. But anyway, back in December, Joe Scarborough and his wife went to Mar-a-Lago and kissed the ring and whatever. And as a result, they lost half of their viewers because the people who watched the show on MSNBC turned the TV off because he's dead to us. He's like a traitor to the people. So boom, he's out. So maybe there's no need for any kind of action towards him. But now we see Bill Maher. And the thing about it was the sun, the thing it did was it squared Jupiter. So in Gemini. So he had a celebrity spokesperson for the president on his show. And then the sun met Saturn in Pisces. So the sun merged with Saturn. So there's themes. Saturn and Pisces rules prisons. We know El Salvador is being dangled in front of the American people. Right now, it's just for migrants, but Marco Rubio, when he signed the deal with the authoritarian leader of El Salvador for these high max nightmare prisons to send people there, also, they're allowed to send American citizens who are convicted of crime there. Now, it's totally against the Constitution, but if you just tear it up and throw it away, this is something that authoritarians do, and this is something that many people are fearing in the United States. We're in a constitutional crisis, or right on the verge of one, because the current administration is just doing whatever they want to do, and not without regard to the law. So yeah, but like, and Sun Saturn is making a fated decision that you have some consequences are for Saturn rejects and excludes. And then now the Sun has moved into to Aries. So I don't know what date they set this meeting, but where is he? The full moon on March 14th was, and this is set from where he's born, a lunar eclipse. And look at Venus is now. Venus is retrograde. There's something coming back about the story of when Kid Rock was on his show. Now he's facilitating this meeting together. And Mercury is stationing retrograde. So Mercury in Aries, this fast-witted, quick-witted joke. Aries has got jokes. This is the screwball comedy that I've been talking about. Aries got jokes about the orangutan, about the dancing, the jerking off two guys at once comment, all of that, where that's back in focus. And he gets an invitation to the White House. And I gotta go. It's the president. Now, his followers, his people who watch his show, probably would have liked him to decline it, but no, he's going. So, and supposedly going today on the day of the last quarter moon. I wonder if he's gotten a lick of sleep before this. You know he's terrified because so at this time, Venus and is backing up into the sun, and at 6, oh my God, they're Cazimi in 5 minutes. I got to do my meditation. Yeah. Because you want to meditate when Venus or Mercury or Cazimi, because Mercury Cazimi, you get great ideas. Venus Cazimi, you ask for what you want and you just may get it. Yes. Okay, so yeah. What did I want to say about this? A thing that is interesting about it. So Maher lives in LA, so he had to fly on a trip to the White House. Now, when Jupiter is conjunct the South Node, and you can see it's conjunct the South Node within 2 degrees. So that can be, we can see sometime, and in the ninth house is the ninth house of travel, legal affairs, long distance travel, it's philosophies and beliefs. You can see Jupiter on his South Node. You can think about that's not the best time to travel because you can kind of be sent down the tubes with your trip, as well as Mercury and Venus are retrograde. This is not a great time to have a fun conversation. So I bet there's all kinds of subtext to what they talked about. Did the president show him pictures of El Salvador or show him the pictures of the people who the Guatemalan people who were supposedly gang members, and now we find out they might not even have been gang members, who were sent to this Dante's Inferno hellhole of a prison where 40,000 plus men are just cramped into this place. And the United States sent women there too, but El Salvador, thank God, wouldn't take them and sent them to Guatemala. And we are paying El Salvador to brutalize people, in my opinion. I mean, this prison looks horrible. Now, some of these gang members are the worst of the worst, so not saying they shouldn't be prison, suffer the consequences of their horrific, like human trafficking, drugs, all of it. But this is not the United States. We have laws about cruel and unusual punishment is against our Constitution, and that place looks like a horror show. Yeah, and you can see how Pluto is squaring his moon. He's been uneasy. Pluto square your moon can feel like internally you're in a life and death struggle. Your subconscious fears are coming up, like for a moon in Taurus, fears about safety and stability because of Pluto and Aquarius, outside forces outside of yourself that are going on. And Pluto's been on his sun. It's on the midpoint of his sun and Chiron, Chiron, the wounded healer. So he's worried about maybe there's this subconscious fear, which may be below the surface, or maybe he's really cognizant of it about what could be coming to what could befall him, because Pluto is going to go retrograde in May and come back and square the moon. And the moon rules the people. And I think this meeting is going to impact his followers, maybe his people who watch his show. Some of them may just turn the TV off and never come back. Others may others may others may be tuning in to see what he has to say after this meeting with the king. Will he go back and say, "Oh, I kind of like the guy that throws people in El Salvador that has it started this trade war, is causing all our allies to turn on us, and turned on all our allies, is, treated Zelensky in such a way that was un-American, all this kind of stuff that's been going on. I kind of liked him, will he say? Or will he come back and say, the emperor has no clothes, he's out of his mind, or somewhere in between them? Now, if he comes back and starts saying negative things about Obama or Biden or other people, like, we'll see how he articulates this meeting when he gets back to his audience, because see, Mercury is retrograde conjunct his descendant. So his descendant speaks to, when you have like your own business, his show is his own show. His descendant is who he's talking to, his audience, the people who watch the show. Mercury and Aries retrograde. They're going to want to know about what he's going to say next Friday when the show is. And the thing about the show is next Friday, it is a lunar eclipse. I mean, a solar eclipse. I hope people are following me with all of this, because it's a lot. Okay. So the show, there's an eclipse at 9 degrees. It's very close to his descendant. Mercury's retrograde on a world point, about to go into Pisces. So he's going to tell people he's going to talk about something. And then Mercury goes back into Pisces. It goes mute. It'll be interesting to see what that means, because people are angry at him about going in the first place, but the eclipse squares his midheaven, so it's going to have an impact on his personal reputation, his out there in the world. Yeah. There's probably fears about his home. Like if you get sent to El Salvador, and you don't even need to be sent to El Salvador. I mean, if what is the statute of limitations? And probably, I'm sure the statute of limitations is long over for him with this marijuana stuff, but could he have trump up charges that cause him some kind of problem? Is that being like kind of dangled or threatened to him at all with what's going on? Yeah. The secret meeting, Venus, Neptune. Does he not say anything much about the meeting? We'll see, because Venus will be back into Pisces. Pisces, the the water signs are mute, the air signs communicate. So, is he? Will he not even talk about it? We'll see. People would be furious if he didn't talk about it. So he's between a rock and a hard place. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Look, Jupiter is almost right about to send himself down. Send his fame, his wealth, all of this is at risk of going down the drain. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with what he says. But this is his eclipse story. He is invited to the White House. He has Kid Rock on, and he's invited to the White House. He goes at Venus Cazimi. Does he ask for a favor from the king? Does the king ask for a favor from him? Does he start talking about the king in more favorable ways when he gets back to his show that is on the eve of it's on the eve of the solar eclipse? What are people saying about him on Saturday after his show on Friday? Are people leaving in droves? How long will it take? The full moon in Libra across, the full moon will be in Libra across his, it's going to be around April 12th. There'll be a full moon. Oh, but I wanted to show you this. One more thing. I wish I could be more concise when I do these, but this is my problem. I have the South Node in Virgo, so I like to really go through all of the stuff, show you all of the pieces of the puzzle and how it all comes together through, I specialize in the moon cycles. So through, and this is March 29th is the eclipse. If this, okay, so the eclipse is at 9 degrees. His progressed sun, which is what he's feeling right now, he's identifying with right now, his progressed sun is in Aries. Aries is a sign of pioneering and competition and all that stuff, but it also has to do with survival. And his sun went into Aries around 9 years ago. What happened 9 years ago? Wasn't that when the president became the president first time? Yeah, that's when he first started running around that time. Interesting. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so his identity, the sun is our identity, is being eclipsed. It's not his actual sun, it's his progressed sun, but it speaks about what he's identifying with within himself right now. So that's important. His progressed moon in Scorpio, a sign of and moon square Pluto. Yeah, he's emotionally of the fear, maybe. Pluto is the terror as well. Yeah. He may be feeling fears for his very survival and security if he's been threatened with what's coming if you don't fall in line and talk nicely about me. I want to hear you apologize to me for calling me an orangutan, the son of an orangutan, or jerking off the jerking off two guys at once. He may be demanding apologies for that. Who knows? We'll see with that. But there's a big story with that for him. And look, Uranus is right on his progressed Venus. Venus rules popularity. Venus is at home in Taurus. He's been quite popular up till now, even more popular now that his show has been on CNN. Um, but are the people who watch it, has he betrayed? Are they breaking with him? Uranus is permanent sudden breaks. Are they going to break with him because he met with the enemy? Yeah, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And, or maybe it's a big nothing burger. I don't think so. I don't think so. This is pe these people being sent to El Salvador, I view this as for entertainment and only as a warning. Obviously, they've made it very clear it's a warning to other migrants. Like right now, Cubans, there are 500 plus people who were here legally from Cuba, Venezuela, and I think Nicaragua. It was announced in the last day or two that they have to leave by April 24th or risk um, they've been told to self-deport or risk a fate similar to what happened to the people who got sent to El Salvador, which included a soccer player who had no criminal record at all, for sure, and a bunch of other there. Well, Venezuela says not one of the people in that prison is part of that gang, but we definitely have heard from the relatives of the soccer player that he had nothing to do with the gang. It was tattoos, Saturn and Pisces, the ink on their skin. They were targeted because they had the tattoos. Saturn rules the skin. At the lunar eclipse, the sun was conjunct Saturn, and Pisces rules like illusions, designs, drawings, you can think of as Pisces. There's Saturn and Pisces, um, ink on the skin. They got sent to this Saturn punishes. They got sent to this hellhole prison. Yeah, and lost all their Pisces rules people who have no power, like people in prison. Yeah, so that all aligns with the story. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know if or just we'll see if it becomes a story about like it's not going to be a big story maybe in the wider collective, but this is a personal story about what one person is going through in the eclipse. They're famous, so we will get to see something. I have watched his show, so I'll watch at least one more episode. Maybe I mean I won't. I, I may watch more, but if he's totally Mercury retrograde, if his talking becomes completely different than what we're used to him articulating, because Mercury retrograde's on a world point, so there's some story that is going to get a lot of attention at the solar eclipse of a Mercury and Aries nature. And this fast talking comedian who's got all these short little Aries quips, if he's all of a sudden singing a different tune with Venus retrograde, it's going to be of note. Yeah, because it will telegraph to the community in Hollywood. He's a mover and shaker and friends with a lot of famous people, and he's probably going to be telling them about what went on in the White House, and letting them know what their marching orders are about the risks they take by exerting their First Amendment right of free speech. Yeah, so we'll see if he's quieted down, if he's going to be his Aries self, not Aries, Aquarius self, and speak his mind, speak his truth, still make jokes about the man, or will the jokes be very muted and he start talking about the man's enemies? And yeah, he has some kind of turnaround about face. Aries rules the head and the face. Are people going to be saying, if you see stories about this, the astrology of Aries? And the thing about this that really, like, I jazzed up all about seeing this is because I wanted to know how we're going to see a story that brings together the Solar eclipse in Aries, where the sun and the moon are both at 0 degrees, initiating this new start in Aries energy. And the Venus, and it was at 9 Aries, Venus stationed retrograde at 10 Aries, and Mercury stationed retrograde at 9 Aries. So there's something about a leader, the people, the sun is the leader, the moon is the people, popularity or money or resources, Venus, and it has to do with Mercury, communication, and it's on his descendant. So he's the Libra rising, but the Aries energy. So this eclipse is opposite him. It's coming, two oppositions come in through other people. And Aries is conflict and a punch. And so I think there's going to be this conflict between him and his audience because of this meeting with the president. And oh my God, I almost forgot. Okay. This is the other thing I wanted to show you. So when he made the joke about Donald Trump, the orangutan joke, where about Donald Trump being the son of an orangutan, was back in January of 2013. So when we don't know, I could have looked at the new moon, but I just went back. Eclipses are intensified new moons and full moons. They seed a story that lasts 6 months. So when you, any event in your life, if you don't know the exact day or time or whatever, we can go look at the eclipse that preceded the event. So you can see the eclipse that preceded that event. Mercury was retrograde on his Saturn. This story is not over. He got sued about it. Saturn is Sagittarius, going to prison in a foreign land, El Salvador. Yeah, and it's just the threat, is it going to happen? God forbid any of this happens. I don't think it will. I think we're gonna. I'm putting all my energy and faith in that it's going to be a hard road. We're in a hard fight, but that democracy is going to stand. Look at where Pluto is. It's at his IC, the most private part in his chart. This power struggle with a powerful Pluto rules like business magnets in Capricorn, a sign of buildings and as well as governments and big business. Jupiter is on his south node then and right now. So Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the chart. So this is the Jupiter return of when he made that joke. And now he's in the White House having a meeting. And look at Uranus here on his descendant. Yeah, he made this funny quip that about this Uranian person, the president who's so wild and crazy. And oh, look, it's trine his Mars. Mars trine Uranus. And now Mercury, there's a solar eclipse right here that could be really important in his life story. Yeah, and look at Chiron's on his Venus. And Chiron was stationing on that day. So is what he said back then boomeranging back to him now? The retrogrades can be like a boomerang. Well, if I disappear to El Salvador, you'll know it might have been because what that I talked about this. Yeah, this stuff, but I have faith that I'm not going to disappear to El Salvador. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So I don't think we're going to get there where Americans, at least, I mean, I'm just not even going to consider that possibility. I think there's no reason to at this point right now. Democracy on March 22nd, democracy is still holding. And yeah, but Venus, Tauruses, and Libras are going through it, whether you're a sun or a rising sign. So I'm a Taurus sun. Uh, Bill Maher is a Libra rising. Venus is important in both our lives, and Venus is retrograde and in the sign of its detriment. Time has not been easy. Like I'm dealing with my dog being sick. He's dealing with uh, the president of the United States summoning him. And I wonder if he was told to put Kid Rock on his show, but I have sensed his energy has been off since the new administration started. Like, and back last year when it looked like Kamala was going to take all, he saw it. He was like, it's good. But then when Elon started donating all that money and there were some missteps, yeah, with the Harris campaign, um, he's he saw the writing on the wall that it was slipping away. And yeah, anyway, slipping away, stolen away, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, but really could feel his energy being a little frantic around January, since his show came back from hiatus. So yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's really, really interesting. I wish him well. I mean, I've watched his show for 20 plus years. I certainly don't want him to go to the gulag. And yeah, and yeah, we'll see. I will keep watching his show as long as he keeps to himself. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I haven't decided. But anyway, I hope you found it. If you watched this whole thing, I hope you found it interesting or useful to help your understanding of Cazimi's, moon cycles, retrogrades. I didn't do and like returns. I didn't do, you can see their charts together. Like you can put Bill Maher's in astro.com. You can put him and Trump's chart together and see that that Jupiter in the sky is on Trump's Uranus and Bill Maher's South Node and Jupiter and Gemini. This big joke. Gemini is the sign ruled by Mercury, the trickster. It's quick-witted. It's funny. It's da 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 coming back and around to yeah yeah, so I hope he'll be okay. I think Bill Maher has done a great service to the country in terms of bringing people of different political stripes together for intelligent sparring, contentious at times conversations. And yeah, he can be a jerk and all that, but I like his show. Yeah, I like political discussions, and I like hearing from people of differing viewpoints what they have to say and think. So anyway, enough of me rambling on. I'm Celeste of Astrology by Celeste at Astrology by Celeste everywhere. My podcast, Celestial Insights, is available wherever you listen to podcasts. You can book your reading to find out what's going on for you in eclipse season at astrologybyceleste.com. Have a beautiful day.